This technique uses 6-strand thread in for different colors. Start by creating a straight line with a back stitch and tie off the end. Then, switch to another color. Bring the needle up from the starting point, going from bottom to top, and loop through every gap in the threads. Make sure not to loop around any extra threads. If you're not satisfied with the result, you can undo and start over. If you're new to this technique, feel free to follow along with us again. This technique also uses 6-strand thread in for colors. Begin by completing the first stitch with a straight needle. For the second stitch, bring the needle up from the middle of the split line of the first stitch. For the third stitch, bring the needle up from the middle of the split line of the second stitch. Finish by bringing the needle up at the same point where you started. This method helps conceal the needle's track. This technique also uses 6-strand thread in for colors. Begin by stitching 5 horizontal and 5 vertical lines with a straight needle. Then, switch to another color. Bring the needle up at the intersection of each line segment, crossing at the 4 corners. Make sure all thread directions are consistent for a more aesthetically pleasing result. This technique uses 6-strand thread into colors. You have the option to stitch 3, 5, or 7 straight lines as the framework. For this example, we'll use 5 strands and select 5 lines for the straight needle. Begin by coming up near the center and crisscrossing the lines as you go. Repeat this process, maintaining moderate tension. Continue until all 5 lines are covered, then finish at any point. This technique also uses 6-strand thread in for colors. With a straight needle, embroider 14 vertical lines to create squares. Switch to another thread color, starting from the upper right corner. Skip and thread through 2 strands each time. Adjust the thread's position while stitching to keep it tightly arranged. On the other side, insert the needle. The second thread passes through the same gap. The third thread's stitching direction is opposite to the previous one, and the fourth thread passes through the same gap as the previous one. Repeat these steps to create 12 horizontal lines and secure the thread in the lower right corner to finish. This technique also uses 6-strand thread in for colors. Begin with a straight needle to create a straight line. making sure each point is enclosed within the line. Switch to another color. Bring the needle up from below a point. Pass the thread between two lines. Above, then go back down at the starting point. Repeat this process to form an inverted triangle. This technique uses 6-strand thread in for colors. Start from the left and use back stitch for the branches. Switch to another color. Begin at the bottom of a leaf. Then go back down without pulling tightly to leave a small loop. Come up at the top of the leaf, pass through the loop, then go back down. Repeat this process for each leaf. This technique uses 6-strand thread into colors. Start by coming up from the top left and going down below. Leave a small loop when threading. Continue by coming up along the bottom, following the arch, and pass through the loop. Repeat this process until the arch is fully covered. This technique uses 6-strand thread into colors. Begin by coming up from the center and going back down. Leave a loop when threading. Next, come up at the start of the curve and pass through the loop. Go back down at the starting point. leaving another loop. Continue along the curve, passing through each loop. Repeat this process until the entire curve is covered. For this technique, you'll need 6-strand threading for different colors. Start by coming up from the center and then down again. Leave a loop when threading the needle. Next, bring the needle out at the edge of the petal and pass it through the loop. Adjust the thread length as needed, then go back down. Repeat this process for each petal. This embroidery piece combines various techniques, making it a bit complex. It's useful to prepare the necessary threads beforehand, considering their colors and the number of strands required. We can start with the mushroom embroidery first, then move on to the leaves and flowers at the back. You can either follow the standard colors or choose your own color combinations according to your preference. Begin by stitching from the center of the mushroom cap. Use 3 strands of red thread with satin stitch for filling. When working with longer threads, ensure you leave ample length during the preparation phase. Stitch half of it first, keeping it tightly arranged along the outline. If you run short on thread, finish the stitch and then continue from the same spot. The inside of the mushroom cap is also embroidered with satin stitch, using 2 strands of brown thread to fill directly along the outline. Next, we'll use 2 strands of dark brown thread to outline stitch around the edge of the mushroom cap. Switch to 3 strands of pure white thread for embroidering the mushroom stem using long and short stitches. Make sure to leave extra length during preparation, as longer threads are needed. For a tutorial on the long and short stitch technique, refer to R2. This technique involves crossing 1 long and 1 short thread to create stitches. Along with the satin stitch used earlier, this is a commonly used filling embroidery technique. After completing the edges, we'll use one strand of white thread to add spots to the mushroom using the granulation technique. You can wrap the thread around 2 or 3 times for larger granulation. If the granulation gets covered by other threads, gently pick them out with the needle. Consider using a thicker white thread to embroider different sizes of granulation. No need to change the thread. Continue using one strand of white thread with straight stitch to embroider the inner lines of the mushroom. Switch to 3 strands of dark brown thread and use a straight needle to embroider patterns on the stem of the mushroom cap. The big mushroom is embroidered using the same technique. Add an additional dark brown outline with 1 strand of thread on the inside of the mushroom cap. Now that we've finished embroidering the 2 large mushrooms, let's move on to the small mushroom on the left. We'll start by using 3 strands of pineapple yellow thread for the cap, using satin stitch. Switch to 2 strands of earth brown thread and use outline stitch to embroider along the edge of the mushroom cap. The mushroom stem is filled using the long and short stitch technique, and finally, some granulation is added. Next, we'll embroider the branches at the back using 3 strands of brown thread with outline stitching. After finishing the branches, switch to light green thread and use the leaf stitch method to embroider the leaves. Switch to 1 strand of tan brown thread to add veins to the leaves. Switch to 3 strands of dark green thread to outline stitch the remaining branches. Then, use the same technique to embroider the remaining leaves. Switch to 1 strand of tan brown thread to add veins to the leaves. Switch to 3 strands of red thread and use backstitch to embroider the large fruit, then fill it in with straight stitches. Next, use the granulation technique to embroider the small fruit. The remaining leaves are relatively small, so we can fill them in directly with 6 strands of dark green thread. Switch to 6 strands of dark brown thread. For the soil part, use a straight needle to fill it following the outline. Finally, we'll finish with the flat needle wound technique, using 6 strands of pink and light yellow threads. Remember, these stitching methods and thread colors are just suggestions. Feel free to choose your favorite colors and get creative with your designs. Once you've mastered these techniques, you can embroider them anywhere you'd like. I believe you can create even more beautiful works. That wraps up the video. Goodbye.